Welcome to Alkalign Lifestyle Institute. I'm Fidel Snoka II, and today we'll be talking about the Orgasmic Power Framework, which is the philosophy that the Alkalign Lifestyle Institute uses to transform a person from incoherent to coherent. What does that mean? A chaotic being who is living in their head now goes to a transcendental human being. They basically enlighten themselves to release themselves from the outside world and live with the concept of as within, so without. That basically gives you a level of self-reliance that tells you everything in your life is your fault. And that's the best thing that you can do to empower yourself, is to always believe that your thoughts do have an effect on your outside world. Okay, so for starters, we'll talk about what is orgasmic power. Well, here's the definition of orgasmic power as we define it. It is the state of a fully coherent human being whose fascia, organs, breath, hormones, biofield, emotions, and chakras, and consciousness are all synchronized into one single electrical frequency that shapes their relationships, their health, their success, and their destiny. Basically, what I'm saying is your level of presence, being present with yourself, your level of knowing who you really are, how you're doing, where you're going, what are your goals, what are your values. You have all of the accountability as to why you're somewhere or why you're not somewhere, who you're with or who you're not with, how much money you make, how much money you don't make, where you live, where you want to live. It's all based on you. It's just you. But you have to be coherent to be able to hear yourself. Now, let's talk about, first off, the great lie. I believe that there is a great lie, and the great lie is trauma. Now, I'm not saying people don't have experiences. I've had experiences. Everyone's has some sort of level of experience in their life, things that have happened that have shaped how they are. But what I'm explaining right now is that in modern society, people cling to trauma as the excuse for whatever failure they've gone to commit, justify every bad habit, every addiction. It's every excuse and every collapse of will. So people have become so emotionally fragile, so enamored with the identity of a victim, that they forgot that they're the creator of their own experience. So now they associate survival with suffering. And that's not the association that you want to have to be able to move forward in your life. So trauma is literally like a catch-all excuse. Everyone just talks about trauma and they say failed relationships is because my mama did this and my daddy did this and I saw them fighting when I was 4 years old. And listen, I'm not saying that does not have an effect. It does have an effect, because my parents fought. My parents were divorced for the last, 20 years, I think they've been divorced. And I understand that it shaped the things that I saw growing up and how I navigated my way through relationships. But I also understood was that I don't have to live through that. I can change it. I have the power to change it. And so what you see is that when you're living in an alkaline lifestyle, which essentially is a balanced, neutral perspective, but you don't say something's good or bad. You're not sitting there saying reaching for here or reaching for there. You're just neutral. So you can see both sides of the spectrum. You stop making assumptions. You stop generalizing your statements. Start to understand how to speak properly with consciousness and conscious language. It's a different way of being, which is why not everyone wants to do it. You see, trauma as a causal force in this framework does not actually exist. It doesn't cause anything. What exists actually is a choice. So we'll put you have a choice. You have a choice At every moment in time and point in space, you have a choice. Now, how one interprets the events that happen in their life, how one interprets the events and things that have happened in their past, it's up to you. Because that will shape where you're going and your future. Don't measure your future by your past. Never do that. Because what happens then is they have mistaken goals. These are goals that send you down instead of sending you up. Okay? And how one again interprets these mistaken goals, the behavior that they have follows. There's a loop cycle. You've heard of Dr. Joe Dispenza? Dr. Joe talks about thinking and feeling, feeling and thinking. He says the cycle is like this, like a circle. It's basically like this. Thinking and feeling. You see, because if you feel angry, you'll get angry. If you feel sad, you'll act sad. If you feel happy, you'll act happy. You start thinking happy thoughts. It's a thinking and feeling loop cycle. You have got to find a way to break the cycle. Now, events happen in every moment in time and point in space, and they are always neutral. Any event. And one thing you're going to learn is that there's only one law. The one universal law that you can't ever say this does not exist is that everything is constantly changing. Nothing stays the same. Everything's always moving. I'm vibrating, you're vibrating, watching me on this video right here. Everyone's vibrating. That's a rule. That's an actual law, an actual researched. Literally, people have gone in to see the particles, structures, and the atoms moving constantly. You're always vibrating. So, what follows the events? Whether it's rape, whether it's a sexual assault, whether it's a bar fight, whether it's a theft, whether it's a kidnapping, whatever it is, financial ruin, divorce, abandonment, whatever it is that follows the event is your interpretation of it. Your interpretation of it. That's what follows the event. Now, what I want you to understand is that regulation precedes interpretation. So the event happens, okay? That's only one part of it. The event happens. That's only one part of it. The next part is, what are you going to do with that event that happened? What are you going to say about it? What story are you narrating about your life that you're talking about it? How are you perceiving this event that just happened? It's based upon how you perceive it, because that interpretation is shown by you. So human beings behave not from their past, but toward goals in their future. This is how the framework works. Think about this. Would you take a cross-country trip from Atlanta, Georgia, Miami, Florida to LA, and you'd be driving backwards? Would you actually do that? No, you wouldn't do that. So you wouldn't be looking in your past because you already passed up Florida, Mississippi, Texas. You wouldn't start going backwards in order to reach your goal. People live in this reality where they just look at their past and they carry it to their present. And so they basically make their present their past, and they keep doing it in a loop cycle of thinking. It'd be impossible to reach any goal or destination if that's how you're thinking. So you're following mistaken goals. That's what this means. Because of your own interpretations of your events in your life in your past, your behavior becomes chaotic and destructive. Now, your freedom begins where? Your freedom starts where your excuses end. So if you cling to trauma and say, again, my subconscious, which again is a real thing now, we're going to get into that too in this framework. It's a real thing. But if you hold true to that thing, you'll be the person working the same job for 40 years. You'll be the person doing the same thing for 50 years. You'll be the person with the same bitterness and anger and resentment for 60 years. And you'll just basically wither away, atrophy, and die. That's how you're going to do this. This is what you really want to do? Think about that. See, true happiness is not something that's granted to you by the outside world. True happiness does not come from the outside world. It doesn't come from there. It's created by courage. Courage is what gives you all the freedom that you want, because you have the freedom to be disliked, the freedom to not care what anyone's opinions are, the freedom to go where you want to go, say what you want to say, be how you want to be. You have the courage to do so, and to also assume responsibility at every moment, time, and point in space. So you're choosing meaning and loving yourself without any condition. All these things I was lacking in my life. I was doing the same thing. I was going through all these processes. I was going through all these different past events and replaying them back inside my head. I've been abandoned. I've been sexually assaulted. I was 22 years old. I had a situation where I was living in Glendale, Arizona. I was drunk, shouldn't have been drinking. I don't drink or smoke currently to this day, thankfully. And I came back. I was staying with a gentleman who I deemed was my friend that I had met at work. He was an older gentleman. And I remember being drunk, and I remember just waking up in the bed, and I'm being fondled and touched, my penis and my genitals and my upper legs, my upper thighs. And I somehow consciously figured out a way. I was repeating my ex-girlfriend's name, like silently and whispering, and somehow the touching stopped, and I was put back on the couch. And I remember telling myself after that moment, man, you just avoided like something could have happened to you really bad. And all I did was I took responsibility for it. I didn't negate what happened to me. I just told myself that event should never have happened if I was coherent, if I understood myself, if I didn't put myself in a bad spot. Weeks after that, when I moved back to South Phoenix, and I remember I hit a lick. If y'all don't know what hit a lick means, that means kick somebody's door in and go take some stuff. I had some friends, but they weren't really friends or acquaintances. But I was hanging out with the wrong people. Basically, I kicked the door in. They ran up in there and took what they had to take. I had my roommate at the time. He just wanted to go get his dog, and I loved this dog. His dog was amazing. And I remember coming back one day from school. I was in junior college at the time, and someone broke into our space. I'm pretty sure I know who it was. And took the dog, took all of our stuff that we had, TVs, everything that we had. And we wound up moving out the following week. You can call it karmic action. I put that out into the universe. I participated in that act, in that event. So all I interpreted was, I'm in the wrong somehow, because what's happening to me, it's coming back to me, is based upon what I've been putting out. Two things within a span of about a month's time happened to me when I was 22 years old. And I was like, listen, you got to figure it out, or you're going to keep on suffering based upon your ignorance. So let's keep going. How about Viktor Frankl? Y'all have probably heard logotherapy. Viktor Frankl was the prisoner of war in concentration camp. I think he was a professor, actually, too. And he talks about how he stripped the family, food. He saw his peers dying left and right, being in gas chambers, all this type of stuff they were going through. And he found some way to discover meaning there. And he found some way to find some gratitude and change his attitude. Even in the worst of conditions, it didn't matter. And now if meaning can be chosen in the worst of conditions, then your trauma is not a prison. It's not. It's just a lie. And I'm going to get to the point of this where I'm going to say, it doesn't matter who you are. You can be wealthy. You can look at Elon Musk. Elon has what, $800 billion or whatever? I guarantee you, he's not immune to it. What, he got like 10, 12 kids or whatever? He's going out. He's doing it. His mind is all over the place. He's not regulated. Look at Bezos. You look at Bill Gates. These people have been through major divorces, paying out major high net worths to their spouses. Most women on the top of the Forbes list get most of their money from divorce because, literally, look at that. They're going through relationships with incoherent men. They're incoherent themselves. What do you expect to happen? You can be a pro athlete, destroy your career just based on anger. You can be a CEO, sabotage a $1 billion company because that's your goal, because you want to act with revenge. There's things all over the place. Celebrities, who go hide in the cave, because they're literally victims of resentment, and they have adoration all over the world, but they want to talk about loneliness and depression all the time. These things are states. They're states that you can change. I'm not saying that they don't exist. I'm saying that you can change them based upon your association to yourself. Now, none of these people are victims of trauma. None of these people that I just mentioned are victims of trauma. They're only captives of their own mistaken goals. And how I'm going to tell you this. We'll talk about right now complexes. Now, this framework was created based on Alfred Adlerian psychology, not Freudian psychology. I studied Wilhelm Reich and Alfred Adler, two associates, actually peers of Sigmund Freud, and I believed their philosophy more than Freud's philosophy. And the reason why is because they put it to where their philosophy talks about empowerment. Freud's philosophy talks about what caused the effect based upon past thinking. Their thinking talks about goal seeking. Now, Adler says all problems are interpersonal relationship problems, meaning every difficulty a person carries, from anxiety to rage, from addiction to workaholism, it ultimately expresses itself in their relationships. At the center of this theory that he constructed are complexes, which are basically patterns of thinking. Inferiority, which is the felt sense of not enough, smallness, weakness, an inferiority complex. A person who has an inferiority complex looks at themselves already as inadequate. And that's based upon a child's natural starting point in life. Because when you're first born, you can't do anything. You're this big, you're this tiny, you can't do much of anything. And every human being needs to be dependent on somebody else when they're first born. That's why subconscious programming is so powerful, because 0 to 7 years of age, you're downloading people's behaviors, how they speak, how they talk, how they walk, your culture around you, music that they play, how they dance, how they move, how your family, are you talking about parents act, how they show love or express love or lack thereof. You're seeing it. But now when it becomes unresolved when you get into an adulthood, this feeling, inferiority complex, becomes toxic. It goes into withdrawal, shame, or victimhood. And you live in this inside your head. Now, how about the opposite end of the spectrum, superiority complex? This is the mask that hides inferiority. I call it the lifted truck syndrome. The guy with the big trucks, the monster trucks. Because they don't face smallness with courage. They overcompensate with arrogance and domination and defiance or control. Men and women both. It's not one side, it's both sides. Men and women both do both of these. Okay, so both arise from a failure to confront the fundamental task of life, which is to take one's place in the community with courage, responsibility, and contribution. So here's what I'll write down the 3 C's. Okay, the 3 C's. The 3 C's you'll have right here, which will be 3 C's. We'll have creation, we'll have connection, and we'll have contribution. The 3 C's. The 3 C's are how you're going to interact in your community. Why? Because you're going to create things for other people. You're going to connect with other people, and you're going to contribute to other people. Once you have these 3 C's, all 3, you can't have 1, you can't have 2, you have to have all 3 of them at the same time, you will feel fulfilled. If you do not commit to these 3 C's of creating for others, connecting with others, contributing to others, you will feel unfulfilled in your life because of these complexes that you're going through inside your head. This is why people feel inferior on the inside based on their own beliefs about themselves, and they create these fake artificial self-images. I listened to Dr. Myron Golden on YouTube, and one of his videos, he talks about people having a lie identity. Literally, they have a false sense of superiority to be accepted by society, to be accepted by the people around them. They fake it. Now you can fake it until you make it, but that means you're faking it while you're making it. Some people just fake it. Don't do shit. That should not be you. Okay, now, here's the mistaken goals and problem behavior. Now, Adler taught that all behavior is goal-oriented. You will not walk across the street unless you have the goal to go across the street. If you don't have the goal to cross the street, you ain't gonna move. If you don't tell your brain to pick up one foot after the other, you ain't going nowhere. You have to have a goal to get up, to move yourself, to do things. It's based upon a goal. It's not because in my past, me going across the street, that don't mean shit. If you're hungry and food's across the street, you're going to go across the street. That's what that means. It's as simple as possible. So when inferiority or superiority distort your perception, your beliefs, and they will do that, they generate what's called mistaken goals. Now, he actually said that these mistaken goals fuel problem behaviors that sabotage your relationships, careers, and your health. So based upon think about this, your attitude may be bad because of these mistaken goals. Because you have a goal to have a bad attitude. You have a goal to wake up with a frown on your face every single day. You have a goal to do that. You can have a goal to change it. Because you control how you think. So that means you control how you feel and how you can express yourself. Everybody I know, including myself at one time or another, has created the experience of this type of behavior in their life where they just sabotage things. But is it really called sabotage? Or is it really actually what you value in life? You just didn't define those values with clarity. You should ask yourself, what do you really value? What do you really like? Stop what you're doing. Look outside. Skim through some magazines. See what kind of car you really like, what kind of house you really like, what place you really want to live, what you really want to do, what your vocation is. Ask powerful questions to create a bigger, expansive view of life. Don't just live it on repeat. Think. You got to think. Okay? Now, in the main time this experience of these mistaken goals shows up is in relationships, friendships, businesses, business partnerships, most commonly romantic relationships. You'll see all these levels of divorce. Now, think about your last, or if you're in one right now, your current relationship. Now, ask yourself, do you or any of your partners express any of these mistaken goals towards each other? I'll list them out. These are the classic ones. Now, Adler made 5. I added on the last 2. And I did it based upon chakras. And you're going to understand that chakras are actually organs, particular glands. And these glands are what function and carry the energy like a snake up the base of your spine to the top of your head, and they enlighten you. So we'll talk about that. At the root, you have attention. This goal is notice me, validate me, or disappear. If you ever had a partner come to you to say, notice me, validate me. Do I look pretty? Do I look sexy today? Do I look handsome in this outfit? Why are you asking somebody how you look? You should be asking yourself in the mirror. You have the sacral. You have power. I must control or I will be controlled. How about sex? Most people are in sexless relationships. I was in one, so I know how this works. And what happens is someone controls it. Obviously, you're not going to rape your wife or your husband. Usually it's the other way around, wife. So what happens is whoever controls the intimacy has control in the relationship. How about revenge? Solar plexus. I was wronged, so I must make everybody around me suffer because I was wronged. I'm telling you, everybody in the household can feel it, an angry man or an angry woman. How about display of inadequacy? I can't do it. I can't reach it. I can't think it. So don't expect anything out of me because I don't know what to do. I forgot that I have AI and ChatGPT and I can just go look something up. I forgot. Or I just made the choice not to do it. How about that? How about the next one? At the throat, proven superiority. I must be placed above others in achievement to belong. All you're thinking about is being first place. First place. Everything's first place. Who can sit down in a chair faster? Who can write clearer? Who can write faster? Who can erase the board quicker? Whatever, you can find everything and make it all a competition of proven superiority because you're always in competition, which is next. Community feeling versus competition. What happens is a person leans towards competition instead of community feeling, which is incorrect because how nature works, it works based on an ecosystem in harmony. So you're thinking if I don't compete with others, they'll betray me. How about partnership? You ever competed with your husband or wife? girlfriend or boyfriend, you're competing with them, and not in a healthy way. Not because you're trying to get stronger or you're trying to grow. You're trying to compete with them because you need to prove that you're superior to them. How crazy is that? You're supposed to be on the same team. Same name on the back of the jersey. Same team on the front. Lastly, we have approval seeking, which is basically the fear of being disliked. If they like me, then I exist. That's why this is so powerful, because you're never going to be free unless you have the courage to be disliked. Now, what I've noticed is that all the base of these behaviors is a distorted flow of energy through the 7 main chakra energy centers of the body. Okay, and what does that actually mean? So let me explain to you what that actually means. Okay, so when you talk about your actual chakras, and here's how you're going to address this. Here's how we're going to address this. When you see the chakras, they attach to these goals. You can say your root is your adrenals. That's the endocrine function. The sacral is going to be the gonads. It's going to be your testes or your ovaries, because focus on reproduction. How about your solar plexus? It's going to be your pancreas, your liver, your gut. How about your heart? That's going to be the thymus gland. That's behind the lungs. That's sending out the immune system, T cells, to help protect you from sickness. How about your throat? Thyroid, parathyroid, proven superiority. How about the third eye? We call this the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland is going to be your third eye. HPAA axis, hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal axis. That's controlling, again, how you feel and the secretion of hormones. And then the then the crown is going to be the pineal gland. Any copper-skinned, brown-skinned, melaninated person understands that the pineal gland is responsible for melanin synthesis, melatonin, serotonin. So here we go. We're going to go in. So now, again, when you're thinking about these mistaken goals, you're going to ask yourself, when do these goals occur? When do I see these goals? When do I commit them myself? Because I'm committing them myself, which is why they're happening in my existence, in my experience. So complexes and mistaken goals are not isolated. They play out in what's called interpersonal relationships, which is basically business partnerships, romantic relationships. It's you in an interpersonal relationship with somebody else. Interpersonal relationship is you with yourself in terms of somebody else, correspondence with somebody else. So this is like a container where your unresolved feelings and distorted aims collide with the needs of other people. The reason this occurs is simple, because your mind is a mirror to the universe. Your mind is mirroring. You ever heard of mirror neurons? I can wave my hand, somebody across will be starting to wave their hand. You go, I'm telling you how this works. People mirror each other's behaviors. Go to a neighborhood where somebody has a white Mercedes S-Class 550. I guarantee whether it's next door neighbor or a couple houses down, you'll see another white Mercedes S550. People just do this. This is how it works. This is how mirror neurons play out. Now, that's the law of correspondence. It shows you whatever you wish upon another being, you're only wishing upon yourself. So what I need you to do is think positively, but not positively, because you can't always be positive all the time. Positive, negative is going to exist, but you have to be constructive. Meaning I'm going to construct and build somebody else up in my imagination. My intent for them is to build themselves up, to build their will up, to build their courage up, because I want them to wish the same thing for me. I will compliment them because I'm looking at them as a reflection of me. If you want to talk crazy to somebody, you're talking crazy to yourself, because it's going to come back to you. So what you need to do is think in the way of the golden rule perspective. The golden rule principle is real. You treat other people how you want to be treated, because you already are. I'm just telling you. This is how this works. Dr. Bruce Lipton talks about constructive interference, good vibes. He also talks about destructive interference, bad vibes. There's two sides to everything. Now, pick the side that you want to be on. You want to enhance somebody's energy wave, or you want to diminish it and dissolve it? Pick one. Think of you and your romantic partners as characters like in a soap opera, and you're both narrating the soap opera. You begin by assigning character roles to yourself and to your partner. It's like a simulation game. So, like, here's a few common ones, and I'll talk about this. If you want to turn on closed captioning, you'll be able to get a transcript too in this YouTube video anyway. So, but you can understand this a lot better just by reading it out. There's a tyrant and rebel dynamic that emerges when one partner, driven by a superiority complex, masking their inferiority, they resist all authority. They demand control. And what happens is the superior tyrant is demanding control from the inferior person, and they're hiding, so they're resisting this person. Talk about this old school dynamic between husband and wife, and you're saying, my wife must obey me. Yeah, she probably, should more often than not obey what you're saying. But if you're a tyrant, I'm not obeying no tyrant. I'm going to resist the tyrant at all costs because it's taking away my freedom. So think about that. Tyrants, don't be that way. Think about how to approach things the right way. How about the judge or victim loop? Unfolds when criticism fuels helplessness. You criticize somebody, oh, you're gaining a little bit too much weight. I see that you're a little bit too fat. You're eating too much bad processed food. Maybe you're staying up too late. Maybe you're doing something. All of a sudden, instead of this person looking inward to ask, is that the truth or not? They, in turn, provoke more judgment. Now they become this victim, go hide in the corner. They don't do anything. I'm taking it personally. What if that person was here to help you? Just ask yourself when somebody tells you something, is it true or not? If it's true, why the fuck do you get mad? So I just want to know how people do that. Because it wasn't said in the way that you wanted to hear it. Who cares? The way that you needed to hear it right now was direct. Just eat that one. Because you caused it. If you were doing what you're supposed to do, you wouldn't have got that damn comment in the first place. If you was taking care of your body, not overeating, going to the gym, going to sleep on time, focusing on circadian clock, not taking in caffeine and alcohol or recreational drugs, stuff like that, you would have been fine. But you wasn't doing it. So somebody told you what you wasn't doing and you got mad. It happens. I used to be a college basketball coach. So I know I had young people coming to me. I had to figure out how way to approach them. So what I really just did was show them based upon example. I played them. I let them come in and I was on the basketball court with them to show them whatever I need to show them. This is how it's going to be done. And I want them to have success. I want them to be better than me. It just depends on what your intention behind the things are. How about hero saboteur? That dance plays out in workplaces when one overfunctions to the rescue. This is like a CEO that's like micromanaging. So the other is just undermining in secret. They come rescue and save the day. And all high performers know these patterns. CEO who cannot trust their team, so you don't delegate nothing because you always hovering over saying, let me get that. It wasn't done the right way. You don't trust nobody. How about the athlete who, after criticizing, they don't train properly? Then they wind up getting hurt. How about the creator who seeks attention while fearing exposure? I want to be on the cover of a magazine, but I don't want to be on camera. What kind of shit is that? You got to pick one. You got to have some courage. They're not random flaws. They're systematic expressions of mistaken goals that are born out of these complexes right here. So, is it trauma or complex? I say modern psychology attributes dysfunction in a person's behavior to trauma. But trauma-based thinking breeds learned helplessness. They define it as events that supposedly break a person, when in fact trauma is a physical injury. If I sprain my ankle, if I bang my knee against a chair or a table. See, so Adler, I studied Adler, he disagrees with the cause of bad behavior being trauma because for him, events do not determine our destiny. The meaning we attach to the events, that does. What's destiny? Destination. Where are you going? Two people may experience the same exact setback. They've had studies about this. The twin studies. One twin dies at 50, one twin dies at 75 or 80. One twin dies at 50 from cancer. One twin lives a longer, healthier lifestyle. And all of a sudden, their experience of life is completely different. But they had the same exact setback. But one used it as fuel to grow. The other justification to collapse. The difference is not the event, but the complex, inferiority or superiority. Or you can remain neutral to it and assign it the right way. Based on the lens that one looks at a challenge, you can have this perspective. Watch this. I'll draw this for people to actually see what it looks like. Here's a glass of water. Here's a glass of water. Now you can have the glass half empty perspective, which is looking down. Or you can have the glass half full perspective, which is looking up. I got something, so I'm still here. I'm still in the game, but it's like, oh my gosh, it's getting low. I don't know what I'm gonna do. You're gonna refill it. That's what you're gonna do. Because you can do that. That's what you're gonna do. Don't wither away and go hide in the corner. You got this. You see what I'm saying? It's a mentality thinking. It's thinking and feeling and thinking. So think about this. Trauma-based thinking, again, it breeds learned helplessness. It externalizes the causes, teaches you avoidance, and robs individuals of the courage to take responsibility for their own life tasks. We're going to get to life tasks next. You're constantly looking at your outer world through a reactive lens. You're always living in survival mode. And this is why people calming down their nervous system actually makes sense. Because you're supposed to be narrating your story, not reacting to your story. You're the creator of the story. Why are you reacting to the story that you created? Think about that. So you think somebody else is writing your story, but they're not. When in reality, you're the only one that's the architect of your own story at every moment, time, point, and space. So complexes, how you think about yourself, not the events, are the true culprits of these mistaken goals and these bad behaviors. Let's talk about this. Life tasks. Now you have 4 life tasks. If you read the book, The Courage to Be Disliked and The Courage to Be Happy, there's a mentor to a young gentleman in there. The mentor is basically he's teaching him Adlerian psychology. He's teaching him the philosophy behind it. And he's telling him that he has 4 life tasks and he needs to complete to live fully. He says the first one is his work, which is contribution through one's talents and labor. What are you contributing? Through one's talent and labor. Remember this on the 3 C's? Contributing. How about love? Our intimacy. Creating partnerships and family. Ooh, how about that? How about the creation word over here? Part of those three C's. And then you have community and social interest. Belonging to something greater than yourself. Sounds to me like connecting with other people. Part of them 3 C's over here. I'm just gonna keep doing. I'm gonna show you how this all formulates together. And then, lastly, self-care, spirituality. That's respect and kindness towards one's own body and soul. Do you take care of your temple? This is the temple. The temple is right here. Don't go ask no landscaper or anything to come. You need to do it yourself. Take care of yourself. Groom yourself. Clean yourself. Grow yourself. It's your job. Inferiority and superiority complexes, again, distort your life tasks. For example, I'll give you an example. At work, inferiority-driven employee, what do? They hide in the corner. They don't do anything. The superiority, which is the boss or your manager, they're going to micromanage you. How about in love? In love, one withdraws in shame, inferiority. Or the other that dominates in control. We're going to do this. We're going to go here. And it's based on they're thinking that they know better for you than you know better for you because you didn't take charge of you. How about community? Inferiority isolates. Superiority competes. And community. There you go. Competition versus community. How about self-care? Inferiority neglects the body. This is a person that doesn't think highly of themselves. They don't take care of themselves. They don't grow themselves. They don't lift, train themselves properly, program their subconscious mind. They don't do anything for their growth. And so what happens? They neglect the body. If you neglect something, it's going to wither away and die. How about superiority? You abuse it. You overtrain. You go to the gym. You want to pick up 1,000 pounds. You want to be Ronnie Coleman. Ronnie Coleman, I love Ronnie Coleman. But I don't love the way he treated his body. I don't love the way he treated his body. And I feel like he should be in the Hall of Fame, walking around, shaking people's hands, but he can't move well. because of all the years of abuse he put himself through. But I'm sure he doesn't. He probably doesn't even care. I just know I wouldn't do that. That's not my way of proving my dominance. So the result is a web of unfinished life tasks and avoidance masquerading as destiny. So let's talk about this. Each of your chakras, like I spoke on, adrenals, you have your gonads, you have your gut, your pancreas, you have your thymus, you have the thyroid, parathyroid, you have the pineal, you have the pituitary. Each chakra has its own little brain that's comparable to, let's say, a CD player, an old school CD player. They used to have these disc changers that were like 7, 8, 9 disc changes. You can just keep on switching. It has like a repeat setting on it, a loop on it. So think about this. These discs, what do? They're not like metaphors. They organize centers of behavior, and they're each governed by a specific. Think about it like a soundtrack from the CD that you're putting it on. Okay, so I want you to think of it like that, where if each chakra has a disc, and at the beginning there are 7 main chakras with 2 attached at the bottom. So the root is actually 3 by itself, but there's 7 main chakras. Think about it like this. The discs spin like a whirlpool at each level of energy going up. So it's like a tornado. So your body basically is like, if you're a person, let's just draw a simple little person like this here. The energy is going up like this, and it's going up and out. It's coming from the ground. And so what happens is each level stores a particular lifeline when it's misaligned. So if you know anything about CD players, especially old school ones, if you had one without shock protection, one CD player, you bumped it, it starts to skip. And all of a sudden, it creates a loop cycle at that point in the song that was playing. It doesn't go forward. The same thing happens with your energy. Okay? Each chakra, again, has its own little brain that's comparable to the place settings on the CD player. So it has a repeat setting, a loop cycle setting, forward and backward, and play pause mechanism. And it activates it when you put your attention on it. So the levels can be recoded through discipline, pattern, and repetition, aligned belief, and coherent energy expression. That allows the songs to play in harmony, which just allows the energy to go up. Okay? So I figured out how to recode them. And this is how you're going to get these frameworks here. Now, one thing you're going to see that is an awful problem is these 2 root poisons over here called anger and fear. Now, listen to this. Okay? The emotions of anger and fear are the root poisons and are 2 of the main ingredients to all problem behaviors. Now, I noticed that in each of the events that I mentioned above in my own life, and believe me, there's plenty more that I can name, I was expressing the emotions of anger or fear in all of them. These emotions do what? They distort your perception, entangle you in destructive interference patterns, dysregulate your body chemistry, and sabotage your wealth, your intimacy with your partner, leadership, with other people. If you're a high-performance person, again, and you're trying to transcend your physical body, and you need to understand you got to get acclimated to the antidote of these 2 emotions. And what's the antidote? You have to do this. You have to have what's called relentless accountability. Relentless accountability. Everything is your fault, every moment, time, point, space. You have to do it. Now, what is anger? The refusal of responsibility is projected outward. You get angry so that you can yell at somebody. You get angry so that you can avoid somebody. You get angry. You express anger so that you can show the emotion and you can go out there. That's the emotions of anger. You're doing it so that you can behave badly. There's your excuse. Behaving badly. Anger. How about fear? Especially emotions of fear so that you can refuse trust turned inward. The refusal of trust turned inward is fear. I don't believe this person's got me. I don't believe. No, it's just you not believing that you got you. That's why it's showing you like that in the field. Showing up to you like that in the field. Anger does what? It hardens into muscular armor through suppression, suffocates your vitality, your energy, and your orgasmic flow till you lose your orgasmic power. And then, if it's done long enough, what sinks in the brain links in the brain. Thinking and feeling and thinking. So the emotions of anger and fear create addiction loops. You get addicted to it. You just start walking around with your head like this here, mad. You always got a frown on your face. Or you're always doing like this here. Or saying no to everything. Anger and fear. And so now your cells start reading these beliefs as instructions that distort your body's pH, and your resentment codes acidity. Now you become an acidic being. Here's where you start to get yourself sick, going into cancers, getting parasitic. What's happening now is bringing your body back to alkalign. That's the only way that you're going to be able to get back to coherence, to change the state of your body's natural being, physiology. Okay? So, learn this. When you ignore the signals on your dashboard, which is based upon interoception, and trust me, that's a real thing. Okay? You got to realize that anger and fear, which are very common today, they're going to change you. Okay, see, so what modern science is telling you is that, and here, is that whenever you get angry or whenever you get fearful, the blood leaves the viscera. And here's what the problem is. You have what's called the ANS, the autonomic nervous system. Have you ever been so mad at somebody or something that you can't move the next day? That's a cortisol flooding your system. You have all your vitality away because you were living in adrenaline the entire time. The expression of the emotion of anger from within you took all your energy. You were so mad. You're so mad, now you can't get out of bed. The same thing happens with fear. You have the ANS system, which is the autonomic nervous system. I'll put ANS. I'll put ANS right here, and I'll put para, which is parasympathetic, and I'll put sympathetic. What does that mean? Sympathetic is going to be fight or flight. Parasympathetic is going to be rest and digest. One's going to be relaxed. One's going to be not relaxed. Preparing for battle, preparing for a war. Okay? So, when the ANS, which is the nervous system behind the veils of your conscious mind, based upon your subconscious mind, controls your heart rate, your breathing, your digestion, sexual arousal, the process of sending blood throughout your visceral organs is affected greatly by the expression of fear and anger. What happens is the blood leaves the viscera. It goes to your arms and legs because it's gearing you up to run, to fight, and to hide from a threat in your outer world. But it's a misperception. Nothing is threatening you. You're looking at your spouse and you're angry at your spouse. You're looking at your husband and your wife with your kids. You're angry at somebody. Looking at your workers and your co-workers and you're angry at somebody. And you're looking at them with the expression of literally fight or flight. So when they come into a room, it's fight or flight. So how about this? Modern science says what? Anger and fear are not reactions, they are choices. You have a choice. You're subconsciously and consciously repeating until they crystallize into your posture, your chemistry, your identity. They're literally etching into your brain's neural pathways things that make you angry and fearful. So you're basically playing a loop cycle of things that make you angry and fearful because you are the broadcasting station and the receiving set up here through your head. Now, refusing your own life's tasks takes you out of frustrations, makes you angry at yourself. So refusing your own life tasks makes you angry at yourself because you're refusing your own responsibility. And then it mirrors in the way you take out your frustrations on other people. So your resentment is coming from you not doing what you're supposed to do for yourself. It's you. You didn't take care of yourself, now you're mad at somebody else. Then fear stops you from doing new things and trusting in the unknown because it keeps you in a cycle of living to survive. So just living. So now you don't want to cross the river of change. Fuck change. Change is awful. But change is going to get you to a new place in life. You see, so anger is literally the epidemic in the United States. It says here, research confirms autoimmune issues are disproportionately linked to chronic anger, especially among women. Upwards of 80%. 80%? Why y'all so mad? I'm going to tell you, your physiology is messed up. It's jacked up. So, again, the effect is the same. Okay, the effect is going to be the same. So now what we're going to do is we're going to figure out how to solve this. You have what's called the cycle of transformation. It starts with this 5-step process. The first step, detoxification. You must remove the physical toxins and emotional residues from your body, from your mind, from your fascia tissues. Because your subconscious mind is based upon your fascia. So if I'm fearful, I'll do this. Okay, that's what happens to your posture. It tightens your fascia. Constriction. You have to remove the physical toxins. This is where herbal formulas, herbal detoxes are great for. You need to focus on vagus nerve detoxes so you can have things like hyssop, things like burdock root to cleanse the blood, dandelion root. You have Irish moss, ashwagandha. These things that can basically, mullein, taking away mucus. These things can go into your system to remove these little physical toxins and expel them from your body. You just put them in teas. Go get them as a tincture. I prefer alcohol-free. In my herbal formulas, I only use alcohol-free because I believe this is a better way of doing it. I don't care for any alcohol. But that's the first part, is detoxification. Changing your diet as well. Plant-based. I've been plant-based for over 9 years. This is how I look. This is how I feel. I feel phenomenal. Dropped 20 pounds pretty much the first year I went through it. Been cleansing for the last 4 years with my own herbal formulas, and I feel phenomenal. My mind is clear. And I understand how to navigate my way. Because the first step, detoxification. Second step, regulation. Here's where you're going to stabilize your nervous system. This is breathing. Let's practice box breathing. You can just do a simple 5-second inhalation. Hold it for 5 seconds. Exhale 5 seconds. Do that for 5 minutes. See how wonderful you feel. Stabilize your nervous system. Third, awareness. Here's the great part about awareness. You develop what's called metacognition and interoception. Metacognition is thinking about what you've been thinking about. And then interoception is literally you checking your own dashboard of how you feel. Your blood sugar, your heart rate. You're checking your breathing. You're checking everything that has to do with how you feel on the inside. You're checking your acidity, your pH. You're checking the things that you're supposed to be able to see on a dashboard. It's like you're driving your car on your vessel without seeing how fast you're going, without seeing how much energy you have, without seeing how many miles per hour you're going. You can't drive a car without seeing how many miles per hour you're going, or how much gas you got into the tank. People do it every day. Drinking caffeine that stops their adenosine, blocks their adenosine. You don't know how tired you really are because you provide yourself with fake energy. That's why caffeine is awful. That's the next drug of choice right now is caffeine in your cell phone. You have got to become aware. Metacognition, thinking about what you've been thinking about. Interoception, thinking about how you actually feel and checking yourself in your own dashboard of how you feel. How about 4? Reprogramming your subconscious, changing your beliefs and emotional patterns. I want you to get out your iPhone or anything, use a voice recorder, write down 300 things that you want from God and just say them out loud and record them and then play them back to yourself overnight. You can say, I want a better attitude. You can say, I want perfect health. Be clear, be definite whenever you do this process. Don't be general. Say what car you want, where it's at. You want a new amount of money. You want to earn $100,000 a month. Say that and say, I am, God is earning $100,000 a month. You're speaking it into existence for yourself to go out, to go do the thing that you need to go do, to go get the thing that you're asking for. That's how you reprogram your subconscious. Don't just make an affirmation and then sit still on your couch. Make an affirmation and then say, this is what you are. Go do what you're saying that you are. That's the change. 5 is coherence and creation. Coherence and creation. What does that mean? Brain, heart, body, and actually gut. So I'll put gut, brain, heart, body synchronized. Your gut, brain synchronized. Your heart, brain synchronized. Your body, your entire body, each chakra has its own brain. So realize that. When you realize that, you're going to see it. The cycle transformation is occurring because you are giving yourself what you need to give yourself. These 5 steps right here: detoxification, regulation, awareness, reprogramming subconscious, coherence, and creation. Here's some exercises you can do. At the root chakra, your adrenals, I want you to do self-validation. I want you to, and that's what I mean by writing down some affirmations that you're validating yourself, and you're playing them overnight, because your subconscious wakes up when your conscious mind goes to sleep at nighttime. You should be playing something inside your headphones overnight to program yourself. I love myself. I'm self-disciplined. I'm the sexiest man or woman, whatever it is. Your sacral, 20 minutes of creative flow with no obstruction. No one watching, just going to you come out the bathtub, come out the shower, dance yourself away, go into the gym, move your body, go into the pool, swim, whatever you need to go do. But it's 20 minutes of creative flow for yourself. Dance sexy, dance and impress yourself. Feel good. How about solar plexus? 72-hour rule. No revenge decisions in the next 3 days. Don't do anything. If you're upset, don't do anything. No revenge choices at all. Heart, weekly forgiveness, repair conversations. Go into the mirror and tell yourself that you forgive yourself, whatever you didn't do, whatever you did, and it wasn't accurate, whatever you did, you failed. Don't worry about it. Just have a convo with yourself and tell yourself that you forgive yourself, because you were supposed to be your #1 fan. You were your #1 fan. Lock in with yourself. Your throat, daily radical honesty. Daily radical honesty and truth. Calmly spoken. Calmly speak the truth out. I want you to affirm the truth, but I want you to do it calmly. Affirm the truth. Just do it calmly. Just calm yourself down. Okay, you can be powerful in your voice, but just be calm, powerful in your voice. Okay? Third eye, trust delegation, meaning assign one task to somebody else and let them do it. Don't hover, don't helicopter, just let them do it. Let them be. How about the crown? 20 minutes of daily silence, sitting, no input. Here's where you're going to get to meditation. You play some binaural beats on your headphones, play some binaural beats on the YouTube or a station on a speaker. Just sit still with yourself. You're going to be good. These things are going to be able to help you change and raise again your orgasmic power and change this state back to a state of a fully coherent human being whose fascia, organs, breath, hormones, biofield, emotions, chakras, and consciousness are all synchronized into a single electrical frequency. Then you're going to reshape your relationships, your health, your success, and your destiny. If this video helped you guys in any way, shape, or form, like, share, subscribe, and until the next one, I'm going to see you guys later. Peace.